Evening, folks. I think we're having a few, or Sam seems to be having a few troubles with the connection, to be honest with you. I'll let Steve keep me in the loop just in case the quality at his end seems to be dipping out. I might have to try and hook onto the 4G on my phone, but yeah, out in sticks here a little bit. It's never the best, and yeah, he's struggling. So yeah, fingers crossed, it's all right. So anyway, it seems like my efforts on calling Lee out have worked. So he is joining us this evening, and yeah, I've been warned it can be a bit lively, so this could be quite interesting. Oh yeah, let's just get straight into it, folks, and get Lee in and see what he's got to say. How you doing, Lee?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, sound, mate. Thank you.
Lovely job.
So yeah, it worked then. You're not shying away.
Oh no. I'm only shy in the bedroom. As soon as I get those spawning brushes laid out, I'm good for action.
Fair play. So tell us a bit about your channel and your journey then, Lee, for everybody if they don't know you, who's watching.
Okay, well, my name's Lee Hadfield, and I got a small channel called the Koi Soldier. Started up about 12 months ago, I guess, something like that. As I started pretty much building my new pond.
Yeah.
I don't know why I started it, to be honest. I just done it for a bit of interest and just to see where it would lead. And yeah, it's one of the best things I've ever done in the koi keeping section, because I've learned a lot from other people.
Yeah.
And you know, every time I've had a problem, they've always piped up in the comments and given me some good advice that I could follow. You know.
Nice. Good. And yeah, so your pond, is this the extension you've just built, this bit?
Yeah. That's
Looks
my
well.
This is my extension. Yeah. So this is my man cave now. I haven't quite finished my bar yet, but it will be there soon.
Good.
Japanese
awesome,
liquor
mate.
only.
Credit to you, mate. It looks brilliant.
Thanks, mate.
So anyway, what questions have you got lined up for? I know you was firing a couple in last week. Are they along the same lines?
Yeah, kind of. Since last week, I don't know what I was thinking, but I've just, well, long story short, your brother and Fujio has been selling me some fish, and I won a couple of silvers in Japan. So
yeah, nice.
You know what I mean? I'm a kind of person that I can't be settled with just the tip swirling around. I want to get balls deep now. So the problem is, I want to get into the show scene in the UK. Now, obviously, I'm not stupid. I know it's obviously a lot to learn. But if you don't start somewhere, you're never going to learn, and you may as well jump in. So basically, that's where we're at the moment. So for some reason, I don't know whether it was after a glass of wine, I booked a vat in the National.
Okay.
The only problem is my fish are not ready to go into the vat because I need to condition them. And my first question to you is, so obviously in Japan, I've bought some fish, you know, off the internet through Fujio and your brother's recommendations, and I've done really well. But that's kind of cheating. You know, all you need is a pocket full of cash for that and the right people to get it to you. But, you know, competing in this country, it's a whole different kettle of fish. You know, the fish from my pond have got to be transported to the vat, and they've got to be conditioned. You know, now I know when I go to the beach, bit of baby oil on my dad bod, and my gilly looks the bollocks. But how do I get these bad boys all conditioned and some, you know, some sound, you know, knowledge from you probably is going to nip that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the first bit is it's not a slow process. It's not just something you can jump into a few weeks before. To be honest with you, even now where we're at, moving into May, the Nationals, when? Is it July? Yeah. So even realistically now, in the grand scheme of things, there is time to condition them, yes, but you'd be wanting to plan this probably a year in advance, realistically.
Yeah.
And actually move the whole cycle of your pond and what you're doing around the fact that you're going to have this period where you're showing in July. So you're going to stop everything, basically. So the first bit, there's obviously there's multiple areas you want to consider. The first bit, and probably the biggest bit, because this feeds into it all, is really prior to the show is when it's your most crucial point, really. And the main thing you need to ensure you do for the health and safety of your fish is starve them properly.
Yeah.
So, and there's two angles to this, and unfortunately, we've not all got the facilities to do this to the extent that some of the Japanese do take it seriously. So you realistically want to cook food 7 days before the show to really empty the guts out. Now, what that's going to cause, and you've got to get the temperature right at this point. It might be difficult because obviously if you're ambiently relatively warm, it's going to screw it up a little bit. Obviously, the time of year sort of plays into this a little bit. But yeah, mainly, if you could, you'd want to stay a bit cooler, more like 18 degrees, ideally, so they're not metabolizing too quickly while you've stopped feeding. So the body that you will have aimed to build up beforehand is going to actually stay on the fish.
How long before the actual show would you start? At the moment, the pond's at 20°C, so I'm raising the temperature pretty much 1 degree a week now, leading up then to possibly keeping the pond over the summer at about 23, 24 degrees.
Yeah, this is honestly going to move on a little bit here. This is one of the real sort of nags with the shows being set at the times that they're set. Because what you're actually doing is now we're moving on. The conversation obviously is about setting the pond up for the growing season, which is crucial. And we've got a whole clump of shows that are sat right in the middle of all that are just going to completely interrupt it all. If you look at obviously the show seasons in Japan, what they're doing there is everything in the show scene in Japan is generally based around what's best for the koi and the season. So we've got a batch of shows set after the harvest or in and around the harvest season. You've got the big one, the All Japan, sat at a time that allows the fish to be harvested, really well conditioned and raised and prepared for the show properly. And then we've got the ones that have just gone, the Wakugoi, right time of year, and then the Junior Koi show, perfect time of year, around all the final selections and Tosai being at their best. If you see what's happened there is it's all perfectly in sync with the Koi calendar. It's completely blank in the summer season where everyone's getting back to business. They're raising, they're breeding, they're doing everything. That's all the sort of hard work put into getting them ready for them times a year. But that aside, it is what it is. We've got to work with what we've got. So as it stands at the minute, for you, what I'd probably aim is right now with the show in mind, not go too high. So probably like 22 degrees maximum.
Right.
And what you can do with that is obviously hit them with the heavier feeding, and that's probably going to create a lot more bulking up than it would if you hit 24, 25. Because at that, you're going to have to really, really hit them on the food. But what you'll also do is compromise colour quality and skin condition a little bit, going to that extreme. So I'd probably have a period. I've not got it mapped out in my head, but realistically, I mean, throughout May, I think you need to be doing the bulk of this work. So probably throughout May, aim to hit the body conditioning, sort of 20 pumping them up quite hard. And then that's going to leave you most of June to probably work more on conditioning.
Okay, excellent.
So I'd probably look to use what food are you using at the minute?
Saki Akari, basically.
Yeah, which ones?
So I'm using is it a high protein one at the moment because I'm above growth. 20. Growth. Sorry, Right.
So what you don't want to do is compromise, and color is everything at what you're doing right now. Color and skin condition. So what you don't want to do is compromise color while you're raising. So I would look to add some sake color into the growth. At the minute. So probably just about a third probably. Mix that in. So while you are sort of pushing the size a bit, you're also pushing the color a little bit at the same time. And then what you could look to do if you really want to try it. Is in that sort of last month, hit them harder with the colour food. So potentially step up to maybe a couple of week period of all colour food, maybe a couple of week period of the sake pure white to then counteract any negative effects from the colour and really get the white skin in top condition before the show.
So I've actually got. Sorry.
So and then if you can get the skin just before that 7 day period, like say you want to get the body, even if the bodies are slightly top heavy, then you've got your week off the food where you should just lose that excess bit and be absolutely perfect, ready for the show.
Fantastic. So another quick question. So I've got my colour already to start going in. Now the problem is I've got 4 sheros in there, but I did hear, I think your last one, that you can actually feed certain colour food with the sheros in there, can't you?
Yeah, I think you'll be amazed how the white skin maintains on your sheros if you're using sake colour.
Yeah. Okay.
Honestly, I think you'll be gobsmacked. It doesn't live up to the stereotypes that much. You're feeding it mixed. It's not 100. If you went 100%, you might find you get a bit of tainting from it. But sheros, you know, white skin's impacted by the growth food alone at times when you start pushing them. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, don't worry too much about that.
So another thing, obviously, because I've been, you know, the fish have been messed around a little bit in the last 3 or 4 months, where I've put them into the QT pond when I was doing the extension. Yeah. Obviously, getting the water back up to spec, etc., and all that kind of stuff. You know, is it common for fish when they've got a little bit of a stress around their environmental kind of, you know, lifestyle, where they'll sort of like hold a little bit of mucus, basically?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
That's another question. Obviously, for me, it's quite simple to get rid of my mucus. But with these fish now, what's the process of getting rid of the mucus layer, the safest way, and how long does it take to bring the Benny out, obviously, you know?
Right. So for me, the two things with the mucus layer is obviously you want to keep the water good. I mean, diet is massive for mucus, and you're doing the best you can there, literally. So obviously water parameters is a given. But other than that, if it's from stress events, which you've clearly had, it's just time is going to be one. Water temperature, which you've got, the closer towards 25 you are, the closer you are towards peak sort of immune response. And to be honest with you, what I'd probably look to do if it is the results of a stressful period is get some background salt in there, just to relieve some osmotic pressure and just to allow the rest of the body to sort of function at a higher level for a little period, and just get everything really nicely settled down.
That's a really interesting fact that you just brought that in, because that was actually one of my next questions. Okay, so your brother did. I had this conversation with your brother, and he did suggest the same, you know, treatment, you know, tonic treatment of salt. So I did. I salted the pond to is it 0.4? I think it was. Whatever. And I came in the next morning, and I've got a Blue Lab Guardian, and normally my TDS in Wales, I'll be honest with you, the water in Wales, we're really, really lucky. You know, I'm normally running about a TDS of about 70 to 100. Not that your brother keeps going on, don't worry about TDS, but I did have a little bit of a meltdown when I came in the morning after salting the pond, because the TDS went up to about 1200. So obviously that must have been attached to the salting process, is it? Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I came in and I was like, that shit the bed. My missus has been pissing in the pond again.
This is just another one of them things, like that whole TDS. I mean, I don't bother with it here. Right, okay. I know for a fact if you went and dipped in most of my ponds, the numbers would scare most people. Ignore all that. Look at the fish. Look at how the fish are growing, the skin condition, everything, and you'll want to copy everything that I'm doing. Yeah. It's plain and simple. Yeah.
Another question going on to water problems. I'm a little bit selfish at the moment. Lots of people have asked me to relay some of their questions. Some of them are actually, you know, bundled up in what I'm asking you anyway, so they'll get their answers.
Yeah.
But I'm being a little bit selfish because I'm kind of pissing in the wind because I'm quite new. I'm quite selfish and getting all the questions.
Hey, mate.
I'll come on again if you want me to and answer this.
Yeah, by all means.
So the water here now. So my KH out of the tap is kind of 1.8.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, up until about 4 months ago, I didn't really know what KH was. The fish were doing fine, and the water was crystal clear. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Since a certain someone has been telling me to bicarb and raise the KH up to around 5 or 6.
Yeah.
it seems to have obviously like clouded up the water a little bit, made it a bit greener. I suppose that's part of the parcel, isn't it? Because you always say that actually a bit of a green water is actually probably better for the fish.
Yeah. I've no issues with that. But is it potentially yours? The pond? We're talking. Is this just been recently that the water's a bit greener?
It's literally only since I've been adding bicarb and raising the KH level.
How long's that pond been running now?
How long? Sorry.
How long's the new pond been running?
So since I've done the extension, the new pond's been running about 3 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but it was even so. I started to raise my KH before I even done this, and I noticed that as soon as I was putting that in, it did seem to sort of change the colour of the water. Not that there's a massive problem there, but I was wondering if that was connected to the KH rise.
Shouldn't necessarily, but what it might be doing is changing the sort of bacterial and filter activity.
Right.
Because what are you trickling water?
Trickling water, yeah, but it's going through a big blue. But literally, I'm only replacing what the Awaz drum is using for cleaning. That's it.
I've got you.
You know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said there's a lot going in there. It's literally I've always got it perfectly balanced there now. So.
Yeah. So if you are choosing to trickle, I mean, the issue you want, in my opinion, a decent bit of buffering as much as possible for the safety side of it. Yeah. Especially if you get into the realms of feeding like I feed, then you will burn KH like there's no tomorrow. It's scary how much, how quickly we burn it out. And straight away, we notice the minute we get from the realms of moving into the lower KH brackets, a 2 and below, we can visually tell. It impacts the fish behavior. We can see the water itself changing, everything changing, because the system is starting to perform differently to what it was before.
Yeah. Okay.
Not going scientific about it. So basically, you're sort of going the other way. I think that the key to it is finding stability and what works.
Yeah.
So it might be. Are you finding you're having to buffer a lot to keep it higher?
No. I'll put, for instance, for argument's sake, I'll put half a mug of bicarb in every Sunday. That'll buffer me up to about 5-6. If I check the water, then literally just before I do it the week after, then it's down to about 3. So I'm just keeping it topped up there. I'm trying to do it as on par as I can, basically, to try to keep the dynamics of the pond the same every week.
Yeah. Fair play. Yeah. I wouldn't. For me personally, I mean, just if you're choosing to trickle, and I am aware the water where you are tends to be very good. So if you're choosing to do that, I would like KH a bit higher than you're getting it out of the tap.
Okay.
So I mean, you've not got to keep it up to the 5s or 6s, but if you kept it around a 3 or a 4, you'd have a good bit of buffering capacity. If you was planning on really hitting the feeding really hard, then I'd probably want to raise it up a bit more, because other than that, you'd want to be trickling shed loads of water to counteract what you're going to be burning out.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the last thing you want is getting into the realms of pH crashes and your biological system sort of underperforming because of what's going on with your KH. But possibly, just in the back of my mind, that's why he asked, 3 months, that's still a relatively new pond. Yeah. It's a new body of water. You might have had existing filters, all the rest of it, but there is the algae sort of bloom phase that can come in a new body of water as well. It might have almost been slightly coincidental. But if you said you did it before, it sort of rules that out. That's why I asked. But that sort of greenish phase, my God, we go through it here when we've emptied the pond out and done. And certainly in the middle of summer, that fresh water, then bang, within like 3 or 4 weeks out of nowhere, UV or not, you're not stopping that green water from coming.
Do you know what? I think you probably hit the nail on the head there, because at the moment, day to day now, I've noticed a lot of algae growing on the side of the ponds again. I think I probably am going through that, maybe a little bit of a new pond syndrome since I've opened this up again. But it is what it is. We'll get through it.
I just want to stress to everybody, three months is not maturity in the slightest, because we're talking you can get your ammonia parameters and then bits and bobs relatively stable. That's done within a few weeks if you do it right. But there's no way the actual system, we're talking full biological growth in the walls, the pipework, everything. after 3 months is just, it's not there. Not there at all.
Okay. Cheers. Yeah, good. Ready
Any
for
more?
another one?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
I can talk to you all night, not a problem. Right, okay, so going back to my victories in Japan.
Yes.
Talk to me about the DK Lineage. I think it's been mentioned before, but I'm buzzing because I've got 2 awards on my wall.
Well, really,
so,
I should bow out here and tell everybody they need to buy issue 12 of Koi Talk to get all that information.
Yeah, exactly. That was a clever instigated question there.
Shocking. No. So DK Lineage. Nice question. So NND, when they started off on the Shearer Utsuri mission, you know, a lot of breeders actually in Japan sort of thought, what are these guys doing? But it was quite smart because at the time breeders in Niigata weren't doing that much with Shearos. It sort of fizzled out quite a lot. You had Kaneko, who's been the sort of known specialist. I don't rate Kaneko Shearer Utsuri in the slightest. And he'd had a bit of a down phase with them for a couple of years as well. Kobayashi got the White Tiger Lineage, but again, it's not mass quantities and it's not a super competitive bloodline, certainly from a show perspective or anything like that. So you're then left with sort of other farms who are doing it amongst a load of other varieties, but not many real true specialists. So NND started this mission and created a phenomenal bloodline to begin with, to be honest. They didn't use any Omasako blood. I think from what I remember, I told they've got parents from Ogata and a couple of other places, and started this lineage up, and they delivered so perfectly. The great white skin was a real strong trait, but most importantly, and from a sort of dealer's perspective, these things were developing really nice sumi at a really young age. Really, really strong patterns, great sumi quality, just looking the absolute business, which is what people are wanting, and it's hard to get. So they did this, and it was instant success, really. And the fish, they started getting into the show scene more and more around the same time. And to be honest with you, these NND Shearos across the smaller sizes at all Japan level were really doing well, and they're competing so strongly, even against Omasako. It was just superb to see what they did. But basically what happened, we saw this, obviously you get a couple of years in, the Nisai, you sort of started telling the Nisai when they were hitting sort of 40, 45 cm, to be honest with you, that the body lines just weren't quite stacking up. They were quite traditionally Shearer Utsuri, and when I say that, it's an inherent trait of the variety to be quite heavy at the bottom, a little bit stouter in shape like Showa typically are, and can carry a heavy gut, especially in the female ones. So, and that we're seeing that more often than not in the Nisai. And as that progressed through to the Sanzai, seeing it even more at that point, and then obviously size, it was clear size was becoming an issue for the lineage, full stop. They did produce some pretty big fish, you know, there's a few, you know, 75s. I think there's a couple of the older ones there that got into the 80s, but that's not big numbers of fish from what they were producing. So super, super strong, you know, up to say 30 cm, and then it was starting to lack a little bit after that. And breeders are aware of this. NND went through the same thing, funnily enough, when NND became what it is. So you had Umo, Marusho, them guys that were raising great fish, real great quality fish, but not with mass size. And it was, to be honest with you, the Marusho Sankey more than the Umo Showa at the time. They got these new facilities and changed technique literally within that year. So within that same year, all of a sudden they were producing Tosai the same size as Nisai from the year before. The problem was when I looked at them and I said it to them, they didn't look comfortable with it. The bodies were struggling, that the weight was overpowering the body a little bit. And that's because the bone structures and basically the inherited DNA wasn't right. Therefore, the fish weren't really made to do what they were trying to do. And they fixed that one literally almost overnight. I was there, I think it was in the summer of 2009. And I was doing some spawning work with them. And this Sankey was in the spawning net. And I just took one look at it and I saw its head. And I went, "This isn't your fish." Typical Japanese, even as well. "Yeah, it is." No, it's not. But anyway, they wouldn't own up. And it weren't till, I think I was before where I was going home. I said, "Where did that fish come from?" And it was actually a Sakai Sankey that they'd bought. It was the first sort of big step and real investment, and that changed NND Sankey literally overnight, because it fixed the bone structure and it gave them the big genetics that they needed. And it's gone on from strength to strength. So tying back into the Shiro, it was pretty much the same thing happening again. You know, I'm looking at these fish and they know the quality's there. It's a superb trait. And even when I spoke to them again, we had the same conversation. I said, you know, the big thing, you've just got to try and maintain that trait with the Sumi coming quite young and looking so good. And yeah, sure enough, obviously they got this Omasako Shiro Soy, which at the time I think was 89 or 90 cm, something like that, that was given to them by Donald Kerr, fantastic guy, great hobbyist, flying the flag for England, to be honest with you, at the all Japan level in a great way. And so yeah, you let them have this fish. So the two of them did this massive trek to Hiroshima to go and pick it up. And yeah, I mean, when you see that fish, it is the epitome of bone structure. That's all I see. You know, the fish itself isn't all that exciting. You just see that body, size, and structure, and it's like, holy shit. And again, in my opinion, having seen it, they've introduced this fish, and it's almost been an overnight transformation. You know, in the young fish, your fish, all the others that were listed up for them events, you can see the face. It's all in the face. That's the first part of the bone structure that anyone needs to pay attention to, and that's where it's happened. They've got this big bullish face now and these big mouths, and they've got everything it needs to absolutely fly. So it's still too young to really know the full extent of it, because I think the oldest generation of them are now currently Sansai. They're going to the mud pond this year and harvested as Yonsai next year. So, you know, we're not knowing the full extent of how big and you know, how quick they're going to get there, but it's looking promising.
Yeah, I'm you know, obviously I've only been doing this hobby seriously for about 18 months, and I go through phases. Obviously, I love the Gosanki range, and my pond's basically just full of Gosanki, and I've got 4 Shiros in there. I've got one from Yugenji, which is a nice piece. I've got an Omasako in there. I've got an Okawa one as well. And
nice.
Yeah, I you know, I don't know. There's something about a Shiro that, I don't know, just swim in marble. I love it.
Anybody who knows, who's been up this place, knows my obsession with them black and white things. I think last year we was overrun with them. They were like vermin at one point. It was crazy.
But again, I'm hopefully now. Well, I will be going over to Japan with your brother in October. So I'm hoping to.
Cool.
We're hoping to like time it properly so we can harvest the 2 Shiros that I've got up in NND. That would be amazing. Do you know what I mean? So that'll be something special, isn't it? So that's going to be nice.
Happy days, mate. Yeah, that'll be good. Now, nice question. That's it's my bag, all that sort of stuff. So I think it's fascinating insight, and it's one of the bits, obviously, that really, you know, when you're paying good money for koi and you're moving up and you're buying the more expensive, it's a really important part to learn about. Yeah. Because at least then you know you've got some idea of the potential limitations. Yeah. And that's the case. You know, the original lineage of NND, it wasn't bad because they weren't growing to big sizes. These things were absolutely bossing it in the smaller divisions, and they look superb. And let's face it, there's nothing wrong with having an absolutely class 30-35 centimetre Shiro swimming around in your pond, and it never really growing much more than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were incredible. So it's a bit of perspective.
So do another one?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
Right, let's go. Right, okay. So I've got a pond full of fish. They're all from top breeders. I'm not saying that they are prime examples, as in grade wise, of where I want to be for now showing. So I've got to offload a few fish, and I'm going to be replacing them with potential show fish. Do you know what I mean? So to that end of the scale, your favorite breeders, a few of your favorite farms in Japan, I mean, and the kind of varieties. Now, I haven't, you know, delved into many varieties. I've just bought a new Goshki, by the way. So I bought that off your brother. He owes me a pint for that one. But that one should be coming over next month, and I'm really stoked. That's probably, well, it's my most expensive payout at the moment, but it's quite a nice koi. So that's potentially one of my first show fishes, you know.
What breed is that from?
Minima Koi Farm, I think.
Oh, Minima. Yeah, nice.
So I think that's the place to buy a Goshki, isn't it, apparently?
For a real heavyweight of Goshki breeding, for sure.
Yeah, so it was actually, did you see your brother put 2 Goshkis up the other day on his Facebook?
Yeah.
So it was one of those. So,
nice.
So I'm pretty chuffed with that. So that's kind of my first sort of major weapon of size going in.
Yeah.
And
they do grow Minima Goshki as well. Great fish.
Do you want to talk about the farm a little bit? Because to be honest, I've been on YouTube and I tried to YouTube the farm, and there's not a lot on YouTube about the Minima Koi farm. There's a few little snippets.
I mean, to be honest with you, we've only been I've only been there once. It was a wicked. I actually wrote about it on a blog I've got somewhere in Cyberland. It was it was a remarkable, just one of them experiences that was just awesome. To be fair, and you see straight away, you know, size. This is what I got from there. The big thing that got me straight away was bone structures. Yeah, all the other qualities are amazing, but that's the first thing I'm seeing is these structures of these fish, massive mouths, everything going on, and you know you've got genetics there that are doing the business, and a proven track record that he's got as well. But the actual farm and background is actually being in koi dealing, and they still do quite a bit of it now as well. You'll often see the brothers posting fish they bought from Lineage auctions and stuff like that, because they're very good at raising, and obviously they enjoy doing it. But the speciality is the Goshki, just a phenomenal lineage. The Benny quality is just insane, and floating Benny at the heart of what they do. Quite a lot of different sets that they use in alternating years, and then they play with other varieties a little bit as well. Showa's been a recent one, and Ginrin Showa, but really great guys, and just a dominant force. I mean, Goshki wise, you've got, in my opinion, you've got Kano, Minima, and Kawakami. They're the 3 guys that are really going at it. Aoki, different sort of style. You get the real strong Kuro Goshki from Aoki. But them guys between them, just, you know, every All Japan show winner will generally sort of tie back to one of them 3. It's insane.
So apparently that's coming over next month, and we'll get that into quarantine hopefully with your brothers going to, and I'm chomping at the bit to see if that might be ready for June. Who knows? It might be, it might not be. But anyway.
And then you speak about other breeders. That's really for me. I've got favourite play. Obviously, NND is a massive one because it's like my second home. That place. But there's other. You see, the thing is that there's breeders you like just because of the experience sometimes of visiting there, and then you've obviously got, depending like you asked, depending on the variety, different places you would choose to go. And I think that's always a thing in Japan. There's a breeder. There's not just Kwaku breeders, for example. There's Kwaku, and there's different traits that they offer depending on what you're actually looking for. This is the amount of choice that you've got. You know, so if you prefer a softer Benny, for example, and you want a fish with size, you know, your Matsue just springs to mind there. Great choice for it. But then if you're a fan of the more vivid, intense Benny and still looking for size, then you look for something probably along Dainichi strains. So Dainichi themselves, Nogami, Mariyama, something like that. So there's always, depending on what you're looking for, probably a specialist that you'll go to and go to for that reason. And then just the farms. To be honest, one of the other favourite places is Taniguchi. That place, just absolutely, every time I go, I struggle to keep control, to be honest. It's crazy, but he's got such a different business model to everybody else. So typically in Japan, in most Niigata breeders, you'll always go into a fish house and there'll be sold ponds that you can't get. That's still the same at Taniguchi, but more often than not, there'll be the Tatigoi ponds that you'll look at, absolutely drool over, and can't touch. And if you want to touch them, it's a very lengthy backwards and forwards negotiating process, and the end outcome of it is you're going to pay through the nose. And this is especially with the Tosai, because Tosai is such a big driver in the market. Everyone wants the young fish to develop and grow and do all that. So Taniguchi flipped this all on his head. Not only does he produce remarkable fish, the quality of his lineage, the quality of his parents are just superb. I've always respected he's got an incredible eye for parent fish. And this makes a big difference. So what he does, basically, every fish at Taniguchi, every Tosai, bar a very small percentage, and it's a really small percentage, is available to buy. The price is just set according to the quality.
Yeah.
And this is not something we're used to. So when you walk into that, I remember the last time I was there before COVID, this pond he netted up, full of Gosanki, Ginrin Gosanki producers, Goshki, and it melted my brain. And when you consider every fish in there was available, it's quite scary.
So
great model.
Leading on to that one, I've actually got Azakari over in Taniguchi. I've got 2 koi at the moment there. I've got a Kahaku and I've got I believe it's a Sanki. So getting good quality fish at the best price possible is obviously, you're going to get what you pay for at the end of the day, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? But do you think it's a good way to get a quality fish for a lesser price, buying it as maybe a Tosai or a Nisai and leaving it in Japan and then shipping it back when it's had a season in the mud pond? Obviously, I know you've got you've got the added risk of something going wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But a fish can change dramatically over the course of a season, can't it? You know what I mean? But
I think what you've got, I think the old thing with that, it's not necessarily you're getting a better fish or better value for money. It would seem if all of a sudden, obviously, it all goes to plan and that 15 centimetre Tosai you bought is at the very least a 45 cm Nisai of some quality, maybe 12 months later. That's going to seem, but how that business works, in order to get the quality fish at 2-year-olds, the breeder, i.e. Taniguchi in that case, knows the value of his Tosai. And not much slips past. So, and basically this is what's happened in koi in general. So we've gone through a phase. So when I first started going to Japan, leaving a fish in a mud pond with a breeder was quite a privilege. The fish really had to be at the right level for them to sort of say, yes, I'd like to grow that on, blah, blah. And then this commercial sort of side of it really sort of slipped in. And it became a big, big part of the business whereby people were just leaving, hordes of fish. I think last time I spoke to Taniguchi when I was there, he had over 1,000 customer fish being kept. And you see them. I'm not just talking run-of-the-mill stuff. It's pretty serious shit.
Yeah.
So, so that's a massive part of his business. And this is what happened in Japan. So basically the sales of big, more expensive fish are not that, there's not a lot of them because at some farms, there's not really many available. If you go, just to use NND as another example, there's not a lot of 3- and 4-year-old fish that you can actually walk in and buy. Because most of the stuff that age is already owned by customers and has been since Tosai on this side. So that's where the majority of this business is getting done. But all that happened was breeders started obviously pricing stuff. When you were buying that fish generally and they were keeping it as tatigoi because they wanted to sell it at 3 years old, because in their head at 3 years old, it could be worth an absolute fortune. The whole thing just shifted. So all they're doing is you're sort of like front loading the price and then the customer's actually taking more of the risk.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
If you get me. So all of a sudden, more Nisai are available and more Tosai are available. They're prepared to sell it, but for a price, they're probably valuing it at what it could be at Nisai, maybe meeting somewhere in between. In some cases, really front loading it all. So it's not like it's created a process where you can nick a bargain. Where you can really nick a bargain is playing the game. So like with them at Taniguchi, this is where it can really work out well. Getting 2 or 3 of those fish that are quite reasonably priced, young Tosai, and growing them on, and then sort of hedging your bets a little bit and see where you go, and testing and refining your skills.
Yeah.
So you learn from that experience, and out of the 2 or 3, you'd probably expect one to really succeed, and maybe left with one might go to shit, who knows, and then we'll have another that potentially is a nice fish. I don't know. You can maybe even move it on, recover some of the costs, and then enjoy the nice one you've got.
Yeah.
It makes the process a bit easier because when you're all in on one and that process doesn't go so well, you've sort of waited 6 months and it can be really disheartening.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But that's the name
yeah,
of the game.
I don't think it's nicking a bargain. I think nicking a bargain, Lee, to be fair, is learning through some of the stuff I'm trying to do in my videos is to look at Koi in a different way. So, you know, when people come with this massive checklist of things that they're wanting, i.e., you know, I want, you know, body, skin, I want this awesome 3-step pattern on a Kohaku, nice U-shaped head on it as well. I'd like it to be from, you know, Momotaro. And then at the end of it, they go, and I'd like it to be female, and my budget is 1,500 quid. Good luck.
Yeah.
But what you should be doing there is reverse engineering that and taking some of them things away. So at that level, or even less, looking at a different way. You know, can I go to a different breeder and potentially get 2 fish for my money and hedging my bets a little bit more, and taking a bit of time and chancing on stuff. Oh yeah, and then removing some other stuff. Remove the fact it's female. You know, just base it on the quality and take the gender out of the equation. Full stop.
Yeah.
Because then that applies focus to other areas I think are more important for trying to spot a bargain.
Yeah. So leading on for that question.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm quite new with the hobby, very new with the hobby. I'd like to think I've got a good eye for pretty things. My missus is not too bad, and I'm an artist as well, right? So if I look at something, I can tell it's nice, but I do still struggle with grading Koi because that's going to come through years and years of experience. Okay. Now I do believe I'm better now at picking Koi than I was when I first started. But the problem I had when I first started, I was going to some dealers. Bear in mind, as I finished the pond, lockdown was still on, so I was just you know, basically window shopping on the internet but not buying anything. As soon as the restrictions opened and slacked a little bit, I got myself to certain Koi dealers, and you know, I found it a little bit strange going in there. And I know, you know, I'm the kind of person, if I buy something, I'll try to buy the best thing I can once, and that's it. So to that end of things, I was going in there and I said, right, okay, I know I want one of those white and red ones. You mean a Kohaku? That's it. I want one of those, but I want a good one. What's the best one you've got in there? And do you know, you just feel like when you're a newbie and you're going into these places with a pocket full of cash. Now, I've got some money to spend in Koi. I'm not a millionaire. I recycle condoms. Okay. So, you know, but I was going into these places and I was asking, you know, what would you pick? Oh, well, whatever you want, you know, and I'm sure they were giving me the, you know, not the jewels in the pond, you know what I mean? Which I would have been willing to pay for, but they were giving me second rate or lower graded Koi for the same kind of value. But, and then obviously, and then you find a breed where you find then a supplier that you actually get on with and you can actually talk sense to, and they know what you're talking about and they're giving you what you want. But I do find that from quite a few dealerships that I went to, that, you know, all they want actually is just to get rid of some Koi and some money. That's basically what I felt like. You know? So, but, you know, I'm not going to mention any names, but I stick to one dealer pretty much now because he talks a bit of sense. He's not quite as good looking as you, little Ricky, I'm not going to lie.
I know.
But he has said his peduncles bigger.
I hope he's watching.
But have you used?
But no, but I think that's. I mean, there's levels at everything. For one, you know, it might just be a case that, you know, there's some great dealers out there who provide, you know, people who are starting out. Their focus is more on making sure people keep happy, healthy Koi.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. The selection side of it is a whole different skill set altogether.
Yeah.
And when you look at the array of skills a dealer needs, there's a lot of them. They've got to cover a lot of bases, and you know, everyone's got a sort of specialty area in every industry. You know, even throughout what I do, I would say my specialty area is that side, the selection, the breeders, the lineages, the growth, the raising, all that. That's what really gets me going, and yeah, the real specialty bag. Got to know a whole load of other stuff. So yeah, I mean, you've got that side to it. So it might just be a case that it's not really their area, and that is what it is. But I also agree there is the bunch out there where it's all just too financially and money driven, I'm not into that myself. You know, that's not the one for me. Because I know long term there's no customer retention in it. Because as soon as someone like yourself starting out realizes they're just full of shit, you move on and you don't go back. But that might be the model that they're walking to. And then you have got the guys out there who do, you know, specialize in them areas, know their stuff, want to invest in their customers, build that long lasting relationship. And yeah, it's there and it works both ways.
So I've got another question for you.
Yeah.
So this is a strange one because I'm trying to downplay my potential showing career. Now, variety-wise in a show, obviously you've got the creme de la creme, which is the Gosanki range, okay? Now, if I was a millionaire and I went to you and I said, right, I want to buy a fish that's going to win GC in the National in June. You provide that fish, I pay that fish, I win it, I won GC, I'd soon lose interest in the hobby. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So basically what I'm trying to say is I'd like to sort of compete in lesser prestigious kind of like categories, you know, start with the crumbs and then I'll have a couple of slices and then I'll try for the loaf, if you like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
On that side of things, what kind of in the like, I'm totally novice when it comes to these show categories. I don't know the categories that well. I don't know the sizings that well. But if I was going to go for certain varieties, which might be a little easier, not to win, but a little easier to enter and have a bit more fun until I decide that actually, I'm going to go and buy a 20 grand Kahaku of someone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What kind of varieties would you say is got the fun aspect and a little less serious competition?
Best advice here I can give you is to go with what makes you tick. I think that's the most important part of it all. I've seen a lot of people really lose their way getting into the show lark, getting into the show scene, becoming too involved in overthinking it, to be honest with you, and needing, I need fish that tick this box, that box, all the rest of it, all this, and it actually really turned the hobby upside down for them completely, because it comes to a point where even regardless of budget, it's never good enough. You can never quite find what you need. It can really take it down a dark path if you're not careful. And it's important not, again, because this will lead you to look at fishing the wrong way, not start looking at fish regardless of the variety as, you know, it fulfilling show criteria, unless you're absolutely confident that is all that you see and all the qualities there to back it up as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you get me, because that's the bit I've seen, you know, where it comes back to the checklist I mentioned. All of a sudden, people's got this checklist of, it starts with all these pattern criterias, and then sort of works down from that, and that's the completely wrong way of doing it, because you are, in the end, there going to be overpaying for inferior fish. I can absolutely promise you. Because when it all becomes about that and ticking these boxes, I believe you'll just drive yourself completely insane.
Yeah.
So go with focusing on quality. If you focus on quality, the rest will come over time. Then you'll refine your collection to a point where you're getting it, and just buy the fish and go with what makes you tick. If you're happy with it, enter it, see what it does. If it doesn't win, go and have a look at what won. All it'll do is just, you know, it'll refine your eye a little bit. You just let it absorb, and you get an idea of maybe where it might have gone wrong, something like that. But refine your skills, refine your eye, and just keep plugging away, and then learn from experience. To be honest with you, you talk about the showing thing. This was for me, even when I started. 2016 was the first show I seriously entered in Japan. It was the Wakagoi back then, and that was a whole new, buying the fish ready for that show was a whole learning curve for me, because I'd spent all my time over these years learning about young fish with potential to become high quality adult fish of sight, and all of a sudden then I'm looking at fish to compete at 15 boo sizes and stuff like that, having to look at them with a completely different pair of glasses on. And to be honest with you, I had good success at that show, but I didn't find it easy. And even now, over the years, it's just refining it all the time. This last show gone, so I've had good success at this year's Wakagoi again. Got some really nice awards, bagged it in. Admittedly, didn't put as much effort into the Junior Koi show just gone, but in my opinion, I bagged up some nice bronze and silvers, but it was, in my opinion, a flop for me, and some learning to be done there, because clearly what I got wasn't clicking. So it's tough. It's a challenge. I was confident in the fish, but they didn't get where I want them to get. So, and what I'll tend to do is I get the Japanese magazines, and we get all they have all the major winners listed out and the pictures, and I just sit and study. I always have done. Just let the eye absorb it and see what's winning, and subconsciously pick all them traits up, and and go from there.
I'll get there. So I think I'll take a selection of fish that I think are all right, and then when they don't do anything, then I'll learn what's gone wrong.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think the big bit is obviously trying to get inside the judges' heads and where they're all heading with it. Is not one I'll get into
well, you
tonight.
touched on that before. Yeah, I totally understand that.
That's why I'd hate to see the hobby ruined for you, trying to live up to whatever it is they're looking at. To be honest, it would kill it for you.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. I got one more question for you, if you'd like it.
Yeah, go on. You're on overtime now.
Right. Oh no, if it's I'm
no,
sure?
You're fine. You're
right,
absolutely fine. Go for it.
One more question. So, a couple of weeks ago, I had to treat the pond again for the dreaded lurgy flukes. Everyone's having flukes. I'm not going to go on about the fluke thing, because that's been done about 5 episodes in a row past. But going on about brands, basically. I've used Fluke Resolve and all that kind of stuff. Different, NT Labs. What's your go-to brand? There's so many brands out there. I've got a good selection of Colombo products at the moment. I think they're probably up there in my mind, if that's correct.
I'd agree. I'm a big fan of Colombo stuff. Although admittedly, Lineage had been my go-to fluke treatment for years, but just hit a patch where it's seeming to struggle, and I have flipped it up, which is quite a normal thing to do with fluke medications. So I've started using something praziquantel based now, which is not in Lineage, and it's having a good impact.
Right. Okay.
That's cool. But generally, Lineage products. The reason Colombo products, I do rate them a lot because they're good strength. They're not the cheapest on the market, but they're powerful. The FMC 50 product don't have to use a lot, but very, very strong. Alparex, really, really great treatment as well. And like I say, Lineage worked great for a lot of years. But you're right. But you have got to mix it up. You can't just stick with the same thing. And like I say, if anybody's watched the Koi Talk video we did with Yoss, there's a lot more to it. Preparation for treatment. Potential cycles for the medication stuff. We have been playing with the Prazi stuff based on Yoss's advice of retreating and seeing no sort of negative effects from overdosing the medication. So time will tell more with that one, but there's a lot going on in our systems that we've got to be aware of, and it's a challenge, big one.
Yeah, lovely.
Awesome. Thank you very much, buddy. Been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me on.
Good. So we'll definitely get you back sometime, Lee. Right, guys. Thank you very much for that. I'm not going to be answering any other questions this week, unfortunately. I've got to prep. I've got packing fish at 5 o'clock in the morning. Again, we've got about 40 odd boxes to get done, and I've got to finish all the paperwork for it this evening so as not to slow everyone down in the morning. So thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a very, very good one. I've enjoyed that with Lee, and we'll be back next week with more. So thank you very much.